Probably have also gone a bit overboard with my slide animations. But yeah, so today, if you haven't guessed, I'll be giving a talk on building your React Native apps with Firebase. So if you're wondering who I am, so my name is Mike, obviously. I'm a software engineer, and I've been developing with JavaScript and a host of other languages for a couple of years now. I'm currently CTO and co-founder at Invitays. So we're just a small software engineering team based out of Manchester. We have a strong focus on mobile dev, tooling, kind of platform integration solutions. We develop bespoke software for clients such as Google, as well as for our own products such as React Native Firebase, which you might have heard of. You can find me on GitHub and Twitter, or if you want, you can drop me an email. And I'm also a Google developer expert for Firebase. So feel free to ask me any Firebase questions. I'm always happy to help. So, quick question. Who has used Firebase in React Native? Oh God, the pressure. So, for those of you who haven't, what is Firebase? And for those of you who have, sorry about this. So their tagline for Firebase is Firebase helps build mobile and web. Firebase helps mobile and web app teams succeed. And to do this, Firebase provides three key suites of products. So firstly, building better apps through their hosted solutions such as database, storage, authentication. Secondly, improving the quality of your app through their products such as Crashlytics, performance monitoring. And finally, helping you grow your business and engaging with your users through products such as in-app messaging, A/B testing, remote config, and probably you've all heard of cloud messaging, FCM. From a developer perspective, Firebase provides many out-of-the-box solutions for a lot of the challenges and complex tasks we have to do as developers when developing products and tools and apps. But it does so through very little code or complexity in your app. One of the cool things is we're able to ship Cloud Functions in seconds, connect to them directly from our apps, or set up scalable triggers which execute when certain events occur, events such as data changing in your database, when a new user is created, or a new crash report was received. Firebase is free to get started and comes with some very generous free plans, and also many of the services such as authentication, Crashlytics, and remote config are all completely free to use, and pretty much almost require zero configuration to get started. Obviously, I could go on all evening about all of those, but I won't, because I'm here to talk about React Native specifically. So this brings me on to React Native Firebase. So as I mentioned earlier, Invitays maintains and develops React Native Firebase. So what is React Native Firebase? For those of you who haven't used it, it's an SDK which wraps around the official Firebase SDKs for Android in Java and iOS in Objective-C. So we worked hard to ensure, where possible, that we followed the same API implementation as the web SDK, so that users coming from the web don't obviously have to learn a new API. And this also helps for greater code reusability when you're building a web app and also a React Native app side by side. These don't really match up to what I'm talking about. I'll not fix that bit. So the library was first created in 2016 because we needed a companion app to a web app we were building on top of Firebase. And from there, we've heavily invested into React Native and also using Firebase just because they work really well together. At the time when we started, existing libraries connecting to React Native and Firebase were very poorly documented and kind of lacked many of the key features and services. So today, our implementation consists of 19 React Native modules, over 1,400 tests, which require 2 dedicated Mac Minis. Otherwise, we're going to be waiting forever. And also its own documentation website with hundreds of pages of documentation. So to help demonstrate some of the ways Firebase can kind of simplify building your products, I've put together an app which we'll go through and just kind of demo some of the services. Well, we'll start off with CloudFirestore. I don't know if anyone's used CloudFirestore. Basically, CloudFirestore is a NoSQL database with live synchronization across all the clients. So it could be your website, your app, they're all kept in sync. And it also has offline support. And it also integrates well with all the other Firebase products. And you can also do things like Cloud Function triggers when a new record is added to a collection, when a record is modified, and this just obviously scales up infinitely. So on the screen here, I've got a basic app. I'm not a UI person, so if it doesn't look pretty, I'm sorry. So Firestore comes with fairly flexible querying and ordering and the standard stuff you'd expect from a database. Kind of spoil that one. Yeah, so you can do things like sorting, so sorting by, I don't know, the year in this case. So ordering by the most popular, so Godfather should go to the top, except for that. You can also do kind of range queries, so filtering where the movies are greater than year 2000. You can do things like limiting, all the standard stuff. And then recently they've introduced kind of in-querying, which you'd expect from a database. So I can even do things like specifically selecting where the title is in this array. And then kind of, okay, I want to select all fantasy or adventure movies. I can do that as well. It's pretty flexible. In terms of the dashboard, so if I go to this is the Firebase console, and you can browse all your data here in the console. So if we kind of change, so what did we have on screen? Inception. So we find that. It was that one, wasn't it? That's Lord of the Rings. Should know these off by heart by now. So yeah, if we just change the score on this one, I don't know, 66. And we should go back and you can see it's updated in real time. So yeah, that's pretty much it for CloudFirestore. There's obviously a lot of query stuff you can do. And in terms of kind of security and kind of securing your data, they have a powerful rules system where you can basically create rules to limit how users access your data. And you can do very advanced things like kind of, are the users in this group of collection documents? Okay, they can access these documents, that kind of thing. I won't go into too much detail about that. The next one I want to look at is authentication with my super secret password. So yeah, so authentication basically is quick, easy setup for many of the common flows that you do in authentication. So OAuth through like Google, Twitter, GitHub, Apple soon. I can show you currently all the supported providers. So in this example, I've set up Google. So if I can sign in with Google. and my amazing profile screen where I've signed in. So that's kind of OAuth, really. I can then go to the console, I can disable accounts, reset passwords, and delete this account because I don't like it. And then you have your standard, okay, I want to create an account, so just create a username and password, and I can now sign in with that. And then I can also do things like I mentioned before. If I refresh, disable the account. If I try and sign in again, it's all disabled. In terms of the code for that, you can do pretty standard stuff. You can basically create a authentication state listener, and then you can populate your component state through that, which kind of plays quite well with the way React is. As you can see, the code's, so there you go. So when the auth state changes, it gives me a user, and then I get the current user, I set it into state, and then obviously because the state's updated, my component re-renders. But yeah, and all the other methods are pretty straightforward. Sign in, create username, email, password. They do as what you'd expect. The next one I want to kind of look at is cloud storage. So I've built this also amazing image uploader. So what this does, so cloud storage, it's basically backed by Google Cloud Platform Storage, and allows you to upload or download user files, such as images, audio, video. And again, just like Firestore, you could do kind of advanced security rules to restrict data to certain users, or however you see fit to structure your data. It's kind of like a standard folder on your desktop. You can do folders, nest folders, add as many items as you want. So what we'll do, we'll add a quick photo. That's one. There we go. So we go back to here and refresh. I should have a photo now. Appropriately named. There you go. And yeah, so you can do all sorts of things as well. The photo, you can kind of set metadata that you can read. You can also list items in the buckets. In terms of the code for that, again, it's pretty straightforward. So you create a task to upload a file. So put file, and you can say, all right, I've added some custom metadata, but not by me. And if you look at the metadata, you can see there it's visible. So then I've created a task, and then for the task I subscribe to state changed, and then I can listen to the upload state, kind of display a fancy UI, uploading your files. And you can batch as many of these as you want together because these all go to native. And yeah, that's storage. I feel like I'm kind of just going through one on one. Crashlytics. I don't know if anyone's used Crashlytics before. It's kind of formerly owned by Twitter, and then Firebase recently acquired it about a year ago. And then kind of since then, you can do basically capture your crash reports in React Native, which includes JavaScript stack traces, native crashes like Objective-C Java, and kind of even the MDK crashes from the native development kit on Android, which is useful, especially for React Native, because of the Yoga layout engine that React Native uses is powered MDK. So all those kind of stack traces are picked up, and you can do things like, okay, I want to log this to go with any crashes. I also want to set some attributes for the crash report, so when it crashes, these are available. I can attach user information, so if I want to, a user reported an issue, I can go, okay, what's your username from whatever screen, and I can go to the dashboard and filter by that user. And there's also a little handy method to crash your app, which You'll never guess what that does.
I'm just trying to understand. So you're adding another layer on top with a better stack trace for the React Native, of course.
Yeah, so you get your native ones as you would if you're using Android and iOS. And then on top of that, we submit a JavaScript one for unhandled exceptions and unhandled promise rejections. So we automatically listen to those in the React Native environment, and then we submit that to Crashlytics. So yes, I've just crashed my app. And if I go to the Crashlytics console, in theory, I should be able to see a crash. So there's a crash. Obviously, the stack trace is from the native method that says I want to crash. So it's obviously, in this case, not very helpful. But for the purposes of this demo, you can see here's the extra data that we've added, any additional logs. And it also kind of ties in with your analytics events. So you can, if you obviously set that up correctly, you'll know, okay, they've gone to this screen, that screen, and then it's crashed, and kind of just tools to aid you in reproducing. And then there's obviously all sorts of kind of device information, that kind of thing. So kind of my favorite one to demo, I guess, is in-app messaging. It's basically part of the growing your business kind of suite of products that Firebase offer. It kind of allows you to send targeted, custom design, kind of branded messages to your user, kind of based on their behavior and interests. So I'll give you an example, because that probably doesn't explain what it does. So for local testing, they give you an instance ID that you can go to the console and then test. So I've set up a draft campaign. I'll just edit this one. Very cheesy joke. And I'll add my instance ID, which is still there and the same. So I'll send that off and then I'll explain it. So what you can do, you can kind of create little cards, modals, kind of little banners that appear when your app opens the next time, without doing any UI code. So you can customize message title, body, kind of an image, buttons. Like if I add a button, I can then say, okay, this button does this, opens this URL, and then with the URLs, you can obviously use Firebase deep links, so you can deep link back into your app. So I've sent that test one off, and in theory, if I reopen the app, does anyone remember the shortcut to go to home?
Command-Shift-H.
Thank you, that's the one. Not an iOS dev. There you go. And then finally, the one I'm going to cover, remote config. So remote config basically allows you to customize your app's behavior remotely. So kind of one thing to imagine that doing is maybe you implement a new feature. Like, okay, I want a dark mode on my app. So you basically implement it all, but you don't really want to release it just yet. And you want to kind of A/B test it. So you implement it all, you upload your bundle to, say, code push, get it to load, but the feature's disabled by default. So, and then you kind of hook that up to remote config through the dashboard. And I've created a dark mode flag, and I've said, okay, it's off at the moment. And what I can do in this demo, you can see I've got no additional new features. It's not really a great way of showcasing this, but just for this demo. So if I set this to true, publish my changes, and go back to my app. So next time I load this, I have now enabled the feature. remotely with no code changes in the app. So you can do all sorts of things with that. Some of the things I like doing it for is A/B testing. So you build a new feature, like I said before. You can test it on a certain set of users, so you can do various conditions. So the one I just used is just a default one. Just said, okay, enable it for all iOS users. Obviously, you can do more advanced ones, like that. Basically, you can even hook it up to analytics and user properties on your analytics. And I think that's pretty much all I was going to cover. Yeah, I won't go into any more because there's obviously like another 10 of them. But if anyone's got any questions. Yeah, so you're asking the image uploader, did I use a library for that? No, I didn't. I used the camera roll just to retrieve the items on the device, and then just raw Firebase cloud storage to basically give it a file path here. Just put file, the URI. The URI is the file that has come from camera roll. I've selected that, passed the URI to cloud storage, call put file. That creates an uploader on native code, and then it uploads. In terms of the little progress bar, again, that was just me doing set transferred, which is a state, and I just round the number of bytes transferred to create the little progress bar.
Is your code available on GitHub?
Yes, so I'll put a link up on my last slide. It's all open source, yeah.
When you have the Crashlytics, like in a normal application, when you didn't normally crash your application like intentionally, do you use like try and catch blocks to like call the Crashlytic log methods and functions?
No. So the way I've set it up on the implementation for React Native Firebase is in React Native you can set a global error catch. So I've set that up to automatically hook into that, and then when a global error that you've not handled, it will go through there automatically. Whereas manually as well, if you've try catch somewhere and you want to record a manual error, you can do Crashlytics .record error and give it a new error instance. And then that will report the full stack trace to the console.
I saw you're doing V6, so V6 release now.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimate for when you push it?
I knew this was going to come.
And,
Right, so.
Additional to that, I saw you have something called Pushy coming soon. The details of that would be great as well.
I don't want to share the link too soon. Soon, as you can imagine, it's a lot of work to build a notifications library because Android has about 50 different features. I'm going to share it, and Elliot's going to kill me. So yeah, we're working on it. This is it. Obviously, it's dev, so please don't use it. But yeah, so on the main issue that's pinned on React Native Firebase, there is a form that you can fill in to get early access.
What is this thing? It's sending messages?
It's local notifications for iOS and Android, but it does every feature. So it's kind of placeholder content at the moment, but it kind of does media style, inbox style, all the kind of notification styles on Android. It does background task messaging, scheduling, and then for iOS it does all the same, the groups, actions, and for iOS 13 it will support background tasks as well. There's obviously a lot more than that, but I can't remember all of them off by heart.
So obviously it wraps everything going on and everything evolving, and with Android and iOS. Obviously they're releasing new stuff all the time. So
yeah.
How do you keep up? Have you got some clever ways to kind of keep up?
So
kind of manual job, or what are you doing in the code gen?
No, it's all manual. In terms of keeping up, so we're kind of, I say, good mates with Google Firebase team. So they kind of give us heads up on kind of new features, and then we just kind of work on them privately in the background. So like last year when Firestore was announced, you would have noticed the same day it was announced we released support, but we'd been working on it 3 months before that. So